Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
That erosion needs to be matched by increased wages to ensure that people can afford a decent quality of life. That hasn't happened here.
BCGEU workers hit the picket lines as they try to find a new deal with the province facing a sizable deficit.
Economic circumstances have changed here in the province.
Plus,
I found the rodent, the dead rodent, in front of the dishwasher in the staff room, and I was horrified.
CBC News looks at hundreds of complaints about rats and mice in Vancouver schools. What could be done to clear them out? And a wildfire triggers another evacuation order in BC as hot, dry weather lingers in our province.
September and even into October, we may continue to see smoky conditions depending on the circumstances of the summer.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. About 2,000 members of the BC General Employees Union took to the picket lines earlier in the day. The union says it was meant to limit public inconvenience, but still make their point. The CBC's Jonna Bailon has more on their push for better wages.
Members of the BC General Employees Union and the Professional Employee Association have set up picket lines in Surrey, Victoria, and Prince George this morning. They said they're fighting for higher wages to address the rising cost of living. The previous collective agreement expired on March 31st. The president of the BCGEU says about half of their members live paycheck to paycheck, and over a fifth say they work second or third jobs to make ends meet.
We've seen an erosion in the value of our currency due to inflation. We've seen an erosion in the spending power when you go to the grocery store, when you pay rent. And that erosion needs to be matched by increased wages to ensure that people can afford a decent quality of life. That hasn't happened here.
Finch wouldn't specify which of the union's 34,000 members are striking. Over 100 members showed up to the picket line in Surrey this morning, and dozens more from other unions attended in solidarity. BCGEU members include wildfire fighters, conservation officers, correctional officers and sheriffs, and court workers. The BC Ministry of Finance told CBC News in an email that the strike is impacting workers for the core BC government. They also said Acting Deputy Premier Minister Mike Farnworth says essential services remain available to the public, including health services and wildfire fighting. Labour Minister Jennifer Whiteside would not comment on the dispute, saying she wants to leave discussions at the bargaining table. The union said it has not met with the province for negotiations since Friday, when it announced its plan to strike. They said they're open to doing so. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Surrey.
For her part, BC Finance Minister Brenda Bailey will not say what the government is offering the BCGEU, but the fight over wages comes as the government faces a $10 billion deficit.
We're looking for an agreement that both supports fair wages, fair working conditions, but also is fair to all British Columbians. And we are in a time where economic circumstances have changed here in the province.
There is some encouraging news if you commute by bus in Metro Vancouver. TransLink has boosted service on 53 crowded routes. Our Chad Pawson went to Surrey, which has 5 of the region's most overcrowded lines.
Buses coming, buses going, people waiting, crowding on and off. News of the service expansion is being welcomed at one of the region's busiest transit hubs.
Do you notice there's more buses today?
Good.
Yeah, the bus service is good?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's really good. You know, I feel like we could use it. It's a lot. The population's pretty dense.
Where we used to live in Fraser Heights, there's only one bus used to be for how many years, and then now they add one more.
The big highlights of the expansion are in Surrey, as the city has the 5 most overcrowded routes: the 321, 335, 345, 393, and 503. Other changes include service increases on 13 of the highest ridership routes, like the R1 in Surrey and the R4 in Vancouver. TransLink is also boosting 26 routes serving colleges and universities and giving better access to industrial job sites like Annacis Island. Commuters say they're already noticing a difference, like the wait for the 335 Surrey Central Newton Exchange bus.
I really appreciate it because it's the only bus that goes onto my street, so I don't have to wait very long for another bus to come by.
TransLink says it's all being made possible through a new funding formula announced in April, combining tax increases, new provincial funding, and a 5% hike in transit fares beginning next summer.
For the average rider, this means that a bus that maybe came every 10 minutes will now come every 6 minutes, or if it came every 15 minutes before, maybe it'll come every 12 minutes, which is huge for customers, right?
TransLink's bus expansion is finding praise from both commuters and critics. It follows years of financial struggles. TransLink says it's moved beyond that now and will move to do public engagement for more new bus routes in the new year. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Surrey.
Now, nearly a year to the day that Hullo ferry workers voted to unionize, workers are now voting on whether to go on strike after talks with the company broke down last week. Now, the union says negotiations have been ongoing for a year with little progress. Claire Palmer has more.
In a landslide vote, 91% of Hullo Ferries workers voted in favor of a strike on Tuesday after holding a vote over the Labor Day weekend. Workers can now give 72 hours written notice of a strike. The union has scheduled a meeting on Wednesday night to discuss the results and next steps. The vote was triggered after a bargaining impasse was declared by Hullo Ferries last week. Workers are seeking out fair wages, predictable schedules, and job security, according to a statement from the union. Employees at Hullo have been working for over a year without a collective bargaining agreement, despite voting to unionize in September of last year. In that time, the union says Hullo has only made one counter-proposal. In a statement, Hullo Ferries says it spoke with the union and will return to negotiations, and that operations will continue without disruption and all sailings will be maintained as scheduled. The BC Ferry and Marine Workers Union represents more than 3,600 members, according to its website. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
A group of parents, teachers, and students protested outside the Premier's constituency office in Vancouver. They delivered what they call a report card on Palestine, asking David Eby to take action against anti-Palestinian racism in BC schools.
Stop censoring Palestine! Stop censoring Palestine!
A BC substitute teacher claims the province has sent an overall message to not talk about Palestine in schools. She says students have been told to stay silent and teachers have been disciplined. BC's Education Ministry says the grade 12 social studies curriculum has been expanded for this year. It says the curriculum now includes a greater focus on discriminatory policies and injustices experienced by racialized and marginalized groups. While there was debate around adding topics like the creation of the State of Israel and the recent conflict in Gaza, these specific topics were not added as mandatory content. Instead, it says teachers are given the professional discretion to discuss these and other related subjects if they feel it's appropriate and can be done in a way that keeps the classroom inclusive and safe for all students. Well, it is back to school time for many students across the province, but it might not be as pleasant for some as others. Documents obtained by CBC News show hundreds of complaints about mice and rats in schools across Vancouver. As Jason Proctor explains, some parents say they're stunned and want more transparency.
I found the rodent, the dead rodent, in front of the dishwasher in the staff room, and I was horrified.
As a parent volunteer at Graham Bruce Elementary, Melanie Cheng was shocked to find a dead mouse in the staff room last year. And as chair of the Vancouver District Parent Advisory Council, the discovery got her wondering about the extent of rodent activity in other Vancouver schools. Now, thanks to a CBC Freedom of Information request, she has her answer. More than 300 complaints from more than 80 schools last year. Live rats, live mice, dead rats, dead mice, the smells of dead rats and dead mice in walls, offices, even cafeterias.
I was completely shocked. In my personal opinion, I was blown away with some of the details.
The data covers reports from September 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2025. And the CBC has taken all that information and turned it into a searchable database that you can look through to find the name of your school, like Killarney, individual words like smell or rats. Some of the highlights, multiple reports at Champlain Heights Elementary of a strong dead mouse smell that got so bad the principal couldn't use their office. Reports of mice in cafeterias, including Britannia Complex, site of a kitchen that makes food for the district's hot lunch program. A rat and mouse infestation in the cafeteria kitchen at Killarney Secondary. Students frightened by live mice running at University Hill Secondary, and mice at Eric Hamba, a brand new school that cost the province nearly $100 million.
I'm incredibly concerned from reviewing this and the details of it, how it's impacting the learning environments for staff and students.
In a statement, the VSB said the district spent $280,000 last year, which pays for 2 full-time staff who work year-round on pest prevention and site-specific responses at the district's 18 secondary and 89 elementary schools. The district says rodent activity is not unique to schools, but unfortunately a reality for residents and businesses across Vancouver.
Oh, what is reasonable?
Kaylee Byers teaches at UBC's School of Public Health. She's an expert in rats and the impact of rats on human physical and mental health.
Is it reasonable? Maybe I often flip this around as like, are we actually thinking about numbers of rats, or are we thinking about rats in our spaces? Like, I think it's possible to keep rats out of the spaces where folks are vulnerable to them. So in our homes and in our schools.
Melanie Cheng says no student or teacher should come into school worried about what they might find there.
We need to get down to a more manageable number of instances, and we need to ensure that things are being done proactively. And we need some transparency on this.
Cheng says there's no doubt Vancouver school children are learning about rodents, perhaps a little too much. Jason Proctor, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, September has begun, and with it warm, dry, and smoky conditions as wildfires continue to burn across BC. The heat is expected to stick around for the week, along with some haze. As Michelle Gasubik reports, experts warn smoke may linger into next month.
As August turns to September, 167 active wildfires are burning across BC, many of them sparked by lightning strikes that pummeled the province.
Over the last 5 days, we did see just over 6,000 lightning strikes across the province, which is kind of lined right up with the 10-day heat wave that we've been experiencing.
That heat wave is expected to last through this week, helping the spread of new blazes late in fire season.
The southern half of the province, including the Caribou Fire Centre, Kamloops Fire Centre, coastal regions, and southeast regions, are all experiencing elevated fire activity at this time.
The BC Wildfire Service is responding to almost 40 fires across the Caribou. A fire on the western shore of Lillooet Lake, southeast of Pemberton, has grown steadily, and at least 7 new fires are burning on Vancouver Island, including a cluster near Campbell River. Air quality is suffering.
This week, we are expecting to see increased smoke, particularly in the Prince George and Williams Lake regions, but with a haze coming over the south, we're getting a lot of smoke from outside British Columbia, so up in the territories as well as down in the United States, drifting through.
And that smoke is expected to stick around.
We all need to be prepared this year and in the years to come for the idea that the September and even into October, we may continue to see smoky conditions depending on the circumstances of the summer.
Another push of hot, dry weather as wildfire season makes its last stand. Michelle Gasub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Darius is here with a first look at the weather, but you have a wildfire update for us that concerns an evacuation order.
That's right. We're going to zoom in to the inland sections of the Central Coast. I think the place that people would be most familiar with in this area is Bella Coola down here, just off Highway 20. Besides that, the place that is closest to this fire is Anaheim Lake. You can see where that fire is burning here. And if we zoom in on the evacuation order in place here, and an alert and another order in place up here as well. So a number of places to be watching. Unclear how many properties are affected by this, but they're saying that people who are affected should head along Highway 20 east to Williams Lake, where there are evacuation procedures set up there. Now, let's, and again, you can see the properties that are in place that are covered by that order if we zoom in there. Now, let's zoom out to the rest of the province. We have air quality statements in place across much of the interior, including some of the places that are also affected by excessive heat warnings. I'm going to talk a little bit more later in the show about why that is so concerning. Air quality alerts are in place in Alberta. I guess we don't quite meet that criteria here generally, broadly, but in areas that do have high quantities of smoke, be extra careful because those air quality can be degraded even further than they are broadly. We'll talk more about fire danger later in the show as well, Dan.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
When it comes to Ferris wheels and roller coasters, what goes up must go down. But can the same be said about attendance at the fair at the P&E? Justin McElroy charts the numbers next. The P&E wrapped up another annual summer fair on Labor Day, and while many enjoyed themselves, the number of people who bought a ticket continued a gradual trend down. Justin McElroy has more.
The P&E. It's a beloved BC tradition with fast dogs, small donuts, and one very big problem. Here is a chart. 614,000 people attended the two-week fair, and while that may seem like a lot, it's actually the lowest number outside of the pandemic for the P&E in modern history.
It was going to be a difficult year.
That is Laura Ballance, spokesperson for the P&E. Like any good spokesperson, she provided context while gamely defending the quality of the fair.
I think overall, our responses from people that attended the fair was extremely positive. We got great feedback. People liked the fair entertainment and were responsive to that.
Still, numbers don't lie. Less and less people are going to the P&E. But why? Ballance said this year a big factor was decreased space due to the construction of the amphitheater. Economic uncertainty was also cited as a reason. But she didn't cite another possible factor. Here's a different chart, going in a different direction. It shows the base cost for a P&E ticket for an adult. No rides, no concerts, no pierogies, no carnival game to win a giant Pikachu, just getting your foot in the door. That price has more than quadrupled in the last 25 years. Even if you adjust for inflation, it's more than doubled. When pressed, Balance said more discounts might be coming.
Obviously, we're in the early hours of debriefing this fare, but that's something that'll obviously be looked at.
Now, would that reverse the 25-year trend? It's hard to say. The P&E has lots of nostalgia and has invested in new rides and diverse fare, but in the age of smartphones, summer fares face all sorts of generational challenges, and no matter what happens, we're never going back to the days where you could see the Beatles for just $5. Money can't buy you love, and it also can't buy a time machine. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
A BC organics company with a lengthy history of polluting has gone into receivership. Court documents show the business defaulted on debts upwards of $16 million. As John Hernandez explains, the company still has numerous outstanding environmental violations.
The lights are off at Abbotsford's Fraser Valley Renewables, the doors locked. The company, its properties and assets now under control of a receiver. In July, Scotiabank filed a petition alleging Fraser Valley Renewables, its owner Matthew Malkin, and 3 affiliate companies defaulted on debts upward of $16.4 million. The bank claimed the businesses appeared to be operating at a loss and said it was concerned the company has been non-compliant with environmental permits and regulations. Chief among those violations, ongoing liquid discharge at this property on Abbotsford's Huntington Road. The waste is near 2 fish-bearing streams and a sensitive aquifer. The province issued a pollution prevention order in December, still unfulfilled.
That mess, which is on this property just behind me here, still needs to be cleaned up, but the property owner, Matthew Malkin, and his companies no longer have control over what happens here.
On August 21st, a Supreme Court judge approved the receivership order, giving a third party control of all the assets, undertakings, and property of the debtors, including the authority to sell them. The court allowed the pollution prevention order to be stayed until September 22nd, which could be extended. But there's signs the province wants the mess cleaned up sooner. Court documents include an email from the Attorney General's office to the bank's lawyers saying, quote, "Given the state of the property, wouldn't it be in the bank's/receiver's interests to comply with the order to make the property more saleable?"
So who exactly is responsible for the cleanup? I asked the receiver and the province if they knew. Both of them declined to answer.
And that's not the only mess the company is still on the hook for. Waste piles Fraser Valley Renewables relocated from an illegal site near Cultus Lake to another illegal site near Hope are also still sitting there.
Moving forward, though, it doesn't really answer a lot of questions, such as what happens to the product left behind and the messes left behind.
A company gone under, but its messes continue to cause problems. John Hernandez, CBC News, Abbotsford.
A look at the day on Blackcomb Mountain in Whistler. Sun and smoke. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up. Canada's transportation leaders met in Ontario today for the Made in Canada Ferries and Rails Summit. The focus is the future of Canadian shipbuilding and the challenges facing that sector. Taking part was BC Ferries President and CEO Nicholas Jimenez. The company recently came under fire for awarding a contract to a Chinese shipyard to build 4 new vessels. He says if we want our shipyards to succeed, the industry needs to focus on a broader market.
We have to stop talking about ferries and start talking about ships because, we run our ships 40, 50, 60 years. We just don't build enough ferries to sustain a shipbuilding industry. So we need to be looking at the broader market for who's building ships. And if you look at it today, there are a lot of companies in Canada, Algoma, CSL, even Seaspan, they are building their ships offshore. So if we're going to have a conversation about the future of shipbuilding, it can't just be about ferries because there's not enough of them being built to sustain the industry.
Jimenez says the government also needs to invest in training skilled workers, engineers, and naval architects, and create a comprehensive strategy for the industry to compete beyond a domestic market. Well, this year's salmon run in BC continues to defy expectations. And for those fish returning to the Fraser River, it's part of a long journey, thousands of kilometers from here to there. The CBC's Alan Regan jumped on a boat to take a closer look.
This is the mouth of the Fraser River, and it's at this point that the salmon that have been coming all the way up the coast in their millions this year are entering the Fraser River to go inland.
Well, these salmon have made one of the great wildlife migrations in the world. Like if this was on land, people would be watching it every year. Underwater, it's harder to know what's happening. But these fish have been all the way out into the North Pacific, way past Alaska, kind of halfway out to Russia. They will have turned around and then come back. And they're on their way through here now to their spawning grounds in the Fraser River and its tributaries.
We see a lot of salmon in the mouth of the Fraser River right now, and that's a great news. But we should be cautious because they're not out of their hole yet. They still have a big journey to do, and they could still be a high mortality in this stream, specifically with the high temperature and the low stream that we observe in the Fraser, and we're probably going to keep seeing in the next several days. And so it's possible that 30 or 40% of those fish might not reach their spawning ground.
I live in the interior. I was just there this weekend. There are ospreys and eagles coming down and getting salmon. There are pelicans sitting on the lakes, the bears, the weasels, the river otters, everything up and down the ecosystem is benefiting from these salmon. We're seeing them right here. We've seen porpoises swimming around. We've seen seals and sea lions. There are eagles. The entire ecosystem is able to respond to the benefit that we get from these strong salmon returns.
For fishers looking to get in on the action this year, there are opportunities along riverbanks, but others have taken to the waters here at the mouth of the Fraser River, where we've seen dozens of recreational fishing boats here all morning. Alan Regan, CBC News, at the mouth of the Fraser River.
A group of Chinese international students is accusing Immigration Canada of discrimination and lack of transparency over their study permit applications. The lawyer representing the grad students has filed a case in federal court to force the agency to make a decision as fast as possible. More now from Thomas Dagla.
At UBC and other campuses across Canada, there will be Chinese graduate students missing from class. Dozens enrolled in science, tech, and math programs, like Yisin Chang, left waiting 16 months so far for a Canadian study permit that would typically take 4 weeks, according to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada.
The biggest loss for me is the 1 year time. Like, how much would you pay for 1 year in your 20s? It's priceless.
This immigration lawyer in Toronto is representing 25 Chinese students with similar stories.
This is the student that has been waiting the longest.
He's filing a case in federal court, demanding immigration officials explain the holdup.
The decision-making process was not transparent because the students was not told why an extensive security check was required in their specific circumstances.
In court documents, the lawyer blames an extensive security check done by Canada Border Services Agency and CSIS. All of it, he says, may be related to a case in 2023 when the federal court barred a Chinese student from a Canadian engineering program, ruling he could be pressured by Beijing into spying.
I think they're being treated discriminately here.
I guess I'm not really surprised.
This former CSIS director says it stands to reason the intelligence service is giving a closer look to would-be graduate students from China.
It does seek to use its Chinese who are working abroad or studying abroad to the advantage of China.
No matter their intentions, Li Zhang and others are left in limbo.
Canada closed the door to the China.
Canada's Immigration Department acknowledges some students are experiencing longer wait times for processing, but a spokesperson insists all applicants are subject to the same screening, no matter what country they're from. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Public libraries in BC say they are at a breaking point and pleading for more funding. Provincial contributions have been frozen at about $14 million since 2009, when they were cut from nearly $18 million. The Association of BC Public Library Directors, I should say, says libraries are more than just a place to borrow books.
Money invested in public libraries is money saved in the long run. The return on investment is huge. And so I really want to stress, as I'm talking about this issue, that public libraries are the best investment that governments are already making.
She says some libraries, including in Cranbrook and Creston, have already cut their hours. Next month, local governments will vote on a resolution asking the province to double its funding for BC's 71 public library systems. The government says it recognizes the pressures libraries face, but did not indicate it will boost money. It says it's committed to maintaining the current funding until 2027. In Alberta, a change is coming to the plan to ban some books from school libraries. The province says it will now alter its ministerial order to keep classics on the shelves. As Josh McLean explains, that comes after one board's leaked list sparked instant condemnation.
As Alberta students head back to class, it's the provincial government that's correcting its work, rewriting a ministerial order banning books with sexual content from school libraries.
The direction will be to take books with pornographic images out of the libraries and to leave the classics alone.
The original order told school boards to pull material that included writing, images, video, or audio containing a detailed and clear depiction of a sexual act. Examples include masturbation, sexual intercourse, and sexual touching. In response, the Edmonton Public School Board released this list of more than 200 titles it said met the criteria. Among them, classics like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale.
I guess Alberta doesn't want young people thinking about dictatorships.
Images with
Smith described the Edmonton School Board's list as vicious compliance.
I'm hoping that will give pretty clear guidance to the school boards of what it is we're looking for.
One group pushing for the restrictions says the school board's list goes too far.
Instead of removing graphic material, they pulled classic literature as a stunt. It's like when a kid twists an adult's instructions. The adult doesn't back down, they restate them more clearly.
The Alberta Education Minister telling schools not to remove any material from libraries while the order is rewritten. Critics say this won't fix the problem.
If they're just going to rewrite it and then represent it next Monday, well, we're going to be in the same boat. It's not going to be done properly.
Teachers and students left unsure what they will find on bookshelves, a cliffhanger as the new school year begins. Josh McLean, CBC News, Calgary.
In the U.S., just a decade after two food giants merged into Kraft Heinz, the company now says it's splitting back up into two separate brands. The new companies have not yet been named. One will handle shelf-stable items like mac and cheese and Heinz sauces, spreads and seasonings. The other will focus on refrigerated foods like Kraft Singles and Lunchables. The move reverses much of the $46 billion merger from 2015. It created one of the biggest food companies on earth. U.S. President Donald Trump says he is expanding his federal law enforcement to more U.S. cities. He's threatened to send the National Guard to Chicago, calling the Midwestern city a, quote, hellhole during an unrelated news conference. The CBC's Lisa Shing has more.
Well, thank you very much.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed he's sending federal law enforcement to Chicago, saying we're going in, though he did not give a timeline, though reports are saying it could be as early as this week. Trump pointing to what he said was a success in L.A. back in the spring when he sent about 4,000 National Guard troops to help law enforcement quell anti-ICE protests there. An action a federal judge just ruled was illegal in California. In Illinois, lawmakers are pushing back against this federalization. Governor J.B. Pritzker saying while he isn't against help from the feds, sending in troops is against the law and a temporary measure to deal with the crime issue.
Chicago does not want troops on our streets. I also have experience asking the president for assistance, just to have the rug pulled out from underneath me when execution meets reality. I refuse to play a reality game show with Donald Trump again.
Now, Donald Trump is using crime in Chicago as justification for doing this. It is something the city is grappling with. While stats show it is down overall, Labor Day weekend was a violent one.
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say about, we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died.
Trump also pointed to what he said was a successful operation in D.C. when he federalized National Guard troops and brought others from states like Louisiana. However, D.C. is under federal control because it doesn't have a state government, so Trump has a little more leeway here in Washington. The situation is different in other states, with lawmakers in Illinois promising to fight this move. Lisa Shang, CBC News, Washington.
Afghanistan has been shaken by a strong aftershock. It hit close to the epicenter of Sunday night's deadly earthquake. The Taliban government says the number of dead has now topped 1,400 people, with more than 3,000 more injured. The CBC's Anna Cunningham has more.
The rescue efforts have continued throughout the day, attempts being made to try to reach the most remote villages in Kunar province in this part of eastern Afghanistan. Homes that were destroyed in Sunday's earthquake, visible, often built out of mud and stones, really not made to withstand such powerful shaking. And the second quake was also a shallow one, and it's likely to make those rescue attempts now more treacherous. It's not known how many people might still be trapped in the rubble of their homes. The Taliban are using military helicopters to transport the injured to hospital in the city of Jalalabad. The International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies now warning that the scale of need far exceeds current resources, with basics like food and clean drinking water needed. The Taliban government has appealed for international aid, but that is complicated. The US wants its biggest aid provider cut the majority of aid after US President Donald Trump took office in January. Prime Minister Mark Carney sharing this on social media, saying the aftermath of the earthquake in Afghanistan is horrific. Hundreds of lives lost, families displaced, and communities facing unimaginable hardship. As the Afghan people recover and rebuild, Canada stands ready to provide humanitarian support through our partners. And those words are key. Britain has said the same, as has the European Union, because Western nations are very aware that they do not want funds to reach Taliban hands. China and India have both offered their help. But this is now a real race against the clock to try to reach any survivors and the remaining injured. It's also a big challenge for the Taliban administration in one of the world's poorest countries that was already facing a severe economic crisis. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
A landslide in western Sudan has destroyed an entire village, reportedly killing nearly everyone who lived there. The deadly tragedy happened after weeks of torrential rain in the Darfur region. Journalist Naba Mohideen has more.
An entire village was wiped out by the recent landslide in Jabal Marra. More than 1,000 people got killed in Tersin village. It was totally destructed by the landslide. Only one survivor was recorded, according to Sudanese People's Liberation Movement, Abdel Wahid Mohammed Noor leadership, and also the Sudanese government. This very painful incident took place on Sunday, but it was announced on Monday by SPLM Abdel Wahid Mohammed Noor wing. This landslide is a threat to wider population. Many villages around this area in Jabal Marra are under threat of such landslides. This area particularly is living in very poor infrastructure. It's also a very vulnerable to erosions and landslides because of heavy rains, torrential rains, and also the geological formation of area, because it's formed out of volcanic rocks, and also the lack of dense vegetation is reducing soil cohesion and leads to more slides and leads to erosion in this area. Rescue efforts are still underway, but also there is some hopes that people can be evacuated from nearby villages, because humanitarian activities are many there. Efforts are needed from international community and also from the Sudanese government, which is now battling with the rapid support forces. 6 out of 8 localities in Jabal Marra are under control of the RSF, and this area particularly is under control of SPLM. So urgent intervention by international community and by the Sudanese government and RSF is needed to help thousands of people who are in need and living very vulnerable situation amid a very dire humanitarian crisis in Jabal Marra and in Darfur region generally. Naba Muhyiddin for CBC News, Khartoum, Sudan.
Coming up, Metro Vancouver's air quality may soon get a bit better as new rules for wood-burning stoves and fireplaces are set to heat up. More on that next.
I'm Stephen Quinn, and I love living here in Vancouver, BC. It's a city with world-renowned beauty, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. In our new daily podcast, This is Vancouver, we're exploring the diverse range of issues and stories in this city, the good, the bad, and everything in between, as told by the people who live it every day. Don't miss This is Vancouver, available wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll talk to you soon.
A new rule here in Metro Vancouver will require most people who have wood-burning stoves and fireplaces to get them registered or face a fine. Georgie Smythe explains why the change is taking effect.
These are the ones that will go inside your masonry fireplace.
Chris Dixon knows fireplaces.
I think there's just something innate in us that just loves burning wood. And people actually come in and apologize that they want to burn wood.
He sells gas, electric, and the traditional wood-burning kind, updated to burn cleaner.
Instead of the heat just going, or the smoke just going straight up, it's going to get burnt again.
But not all fireplaces can do that, and that's a problem for Vancouver's air quality, say those trying to improve it.
Lower emissions are important to try and reduce the fine particulate matter that can affect anybody.
The city says wood smoke from residential burning is the largest source of fine particulate matter emissions, matter that can easily get into people's lungs and blood, so they're bringing in new rules.
People who have fireplaces or wood stoves that they're actually using in the urban and suburban parts of Metro Vancouver, they have to register before they use that device.
It comes into effect mid-September, registration is free, and people with frequently used wood-burning fireplaces must also commit to burn only seasoned wood, fire logs or wood pellets. Montreal made a similar move in 2018 and has recorded significant reductions in smog in the city since.
For a lot of people, kind of understanding is important for them to buy into what they need to do.
And these units now can heat 600-800 square feet very comfortably.
Dixon has been fielding a lot of questions about the changes, but says there's a lot of choice out there for those with the money and ability to upgrade, and better alternatives for people sticking with wood.
If you're burning good, clean wood, and that's a very important part here, if you're burning seasoned wood, the emissions are very low.
So keeping cozy and clean when the weather changes is still an option. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Science and climate specialist Darius Madavi here with the BC-wide weather forecast. Hard to miss if you looked outside today. Haze across our region.
I would say so, yes. Haze, you're right, not just here in Vancouver, but across pretty much all of BC. If you don't have haze, it's probably because you have that surface smoke that's making it difficult to see the haze. Now, you can see those air quality statements blanketing the interior, including some overlap with those excessive heat warnings as well, and air quality alerts in Alberta as well. So not quite meeting that criteria here in BC, but at least not widely, but localized places definitely meeting that criteria. So it's especially important to be careful right now. And I want to highlight so many places in BC. This is tomorrow, but this is the case. It's been the case today. It's going to continue to be the case pretty much through the end of the week. Many places seeing exceptionally high heat risk and exceptionally bad air quality. And those two things together, we had a study out from UBC earlier this summer showing how deaths tend to spike when you have those two things together. When temperatures are over 26 degrees Celsius and you have moderate or worse air quality, the deaths spike. So be extra careful this week. If you have to go outside, try and time it to when the air quality is going to be the best. Firesmoke.ca is a great resource to figure out when that's going to be and try and avoid those higher temperatures. If you have to choose between being out in smoke or being out during high temperatures, it's best to go out when it is a little bit smokier to avoid those high temperatures. High temperatures really are the most dangerous kind of extreme weather event, and we see more damage, more complications because of that than because of the smoke. But, you know, or mask up if you feel like it. Now, smoke and haze forecast, again, this is not just surface level, this is at upper elevation smoke as well. You can see how much that's going to be moving. You'll also notice those outflow winds really carrying that smoke, including from a big fire, rapidly growing fire down on Washington State out towards the coast. That's where a lot of Vancouver smoke is coming from. Fire danger remains high, including some large areas of extreme fire danger in red here. Fire danger has started to come down for parts of Vancouver Island, one of the few places in BC that are close to seasonal temperatures, west coast of Vancouver Island, the North Island, and that has helped as well. But still, Virtually no precipitation in sight across the province, which you can see here. No rain really coming in terms of relief from the fires, but temperatures are going to come down as we head into the weekend in many places. But in places like the southern interior, they are still going to remain very much elevated. Here are the conditions for tomorrow. Pretty much nothing but sunshine, no real thunderstorm risk. But again, please watch out for that smoke and those high temperatures. And here's a 5-day forecast, and a few more hazy days in Vancouver. Things start to get better as we get into the weekend, as those temperatures come down as well. But again, +8 humidex tomorrow. It's going to feel sticky.
Okay, we are warned. Thanks, Bo.
Thank you.
Interest in flag football is on the rise. It's going to be played at the next Olympics in Los Angeles. Coming up, how some CFL players taught kids the ins and outs. Next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Join CBC's Dan Burritt on September 24th at Dakota's signature fundraising event, the Team Trivia Challenge, supporting Literacy Month in BC. Register your team at dakota.ca. And come watch some amazing soccer as Vancouver Rise takes the pitch this Saturday. Stop by the CBC tent and share your soccer stories for a chance to win some great prizes.
There's nothing like being added to the Olympics to bring some luster to a sport. So suddenly, flag football is hot.
Kwabena Ojuro paid a trip to a summer camp that connects young players with local pros.
On the University of Montreal's home field, kids develop their flag football skills with the help of some pros.
I love this sport. I played last year on the summer, and it's a passion now.
The CFL's Montreal Alouettes leading this camp for kids between the ages of 10 and 17.
I used to be a flag guy, so being able to come back and give back to the community is always a blessing to do, and drop jewels on the younger kids so they can learn how to progress their game is always a good feeling.
Players here are learning real game situations from this playbook, from the huddle to the formation to actually running the play and catching the ball like this.
So doing these things, like, it's more for fun. I'm here. It's a nice day. We're just having fun with friends and meeting new people. I'm learning new experiences with other people. I've been playing with boys for the first time.
Flag football's growing appeal is linked to its upcoming Olympic debut at the 2028 Los Angeles Games.
We've never had a football sport in the Olympics.
While professionals are allowed to play at the Olympics, the games conflict with the CFL season, leaving some doubt. But this Montreal Alouettes defensive lineman says if he got the call to play for Team Canada, he would accept in a heartbeat.
I think the first one merits a pretty good bang, and I would love to be a part of that history.
Football Quebec says these camps also help them find talent for the provincial and national teams.
It's getting there. I think it's getting there. Like we saw from Team Nationals, there's like 22 selection from Quebec and a few from out of Canada. So I think, Alberta's getting there, Saskatchewan's getting there. Yeah, I can't wait to see next championship.
Inspiration for the pros chasing the Olympics and the kids just starting to hone their skills. Kwabena Ojuro, CBC News, Montreal.
Always Kwabena throwing the ball.
I know.
Love it. Love it, buddy.
He's so brave.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
have dropped the ball. We're about to take that like 5 times.
We'll be there.
Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem YouTube and our website.
And we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock right after the National. Good night.